Hi everyone, I'm Cass from the Monash Health Library. This video will demonstrate how to translate a Medline search to the Embase or Emcare databases. First, a brief explanation on why we need to translate. Usually at Monash Health, we create a search in the Medline database first. The search will contain a combination of keywords and MESH, that is, medical subject headings, to ensure that the search will capture all relevant articles. Mesh terms are tags applied to articles to enable searching. You will need to translate a Medline search to other databases to ensure that you haven't missed anything. Different databases will draw on different sources for content. The Embase and Emcare databases do not use MESH. They use a different type of tag or subject heading called Mtree. Mtree has different categorization and nomenclature. Because of this, you cannot simply copy and paste your Medline search into Embase or Emcare. In this example, the clinical question we want to address is what effect does ADHD medication have on an elderly patient? This is the Medline search used to answer the question. Note that the lines 1, 5, and 10 contain mesh terms. The mesh term will have a / after it. We cannot copy and paste these into Embase or Mtree directly because these two databases do not use mesh. Instead, we will search for the equivalent Mtree term. Lines 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, and 11 contain keyword search strings. Fortunately, at Monash Health, we have access to Medline, Embase, and Emcare through the same provider, Ovid. This means that keyword searches will use the same syntax. We can copy and paste keyword search lines from Medline to Embase and Emcare. So, how do we find the equivalent Mtree terms for our mesh terms? We can do that in Embase. In Embase, we can search for the relevant term by entering the mesh term into the search bar and ensuring that the Map Term to Subject heading option is ticked. Enter the mesh term without the slash or any other syntax. Our first mesh term we need to translate is aged. Type aged and press enter. Embase will now look for an Mtree subject heading that matches. Embase now shows the most relevant Mtree subject headings for the term aged. It has automatically selected the aged Mtree term. However, we want to check that it aligns with the mesh one. We can do this a couple of different ways. The first way is to click on the scope note for aged. The scope note will provide a definition for the subject heading. In this case, we can see that aged in Mtree refers to adults older than 64 years old in studies. When referring to drugs, it would be for patients older than 65 years old. The term aged would address our clinical question appropriately. Click back in your browser to access the previous page in Embase. Another method of determining if a recommended Mtree term is suitable is looking at the used for list. We can see that aged is also used for aged patient, aged person, aged people, etc. This also indicates that age is an appropriate Mtree subject heading for our search. In our Medline search, we had the mesh term aged exploded. Exploding a mesh term means it will include the narrower terms in your search. We want to look more closely at the narrower Mtree terms for aged to see if they align with our search. Then we will decide if we will explode aged in our Embase search. Again, you can do this by clicking on the scope note for each item. I have determined that all the narrow terms for aged are appropriate for our search, so we will now choose to explode it. Check on the tick box under the Explode column for age to include the narrow terms in your search. Then click Continue. We have now added the Mtree term for age to our search in Embase. Referring back to our Medline search, we have completed line 1. Line 2 and 3 are covered by the Mtree term for aged. In our introductory webinars and videos on literature searching and using Medline to create a search, you will know that you need a subject heading for each keyword. And, as explained before, Medline and Embase are used through the same provider at Monash Health, Ovid. Because of this, keyword search lines will have the same syntax. they can be copied and pasted from Medline into Embase and vice versa. I have now included lines 2, 3, and 4 from Medline into our Embase search by copying and pasting them directly. The next line we need to translate from Medline to Embase is line 5. This line contains a mesh term, as you can see from the / at the end of the line. We're going to translate it the same way as aged by entering attention deficit disorder with hyperactivity into the search bar in Embase. Make sure the map term to subject option is selected. In this case, there is an entry term that appears to correspond with the mesh term, but we will double check. Click on the link for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We can see that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is also used for ADHD and attention deficit disorder with hyperactivity. It does not have any narrow terms. The broader term for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is behavior disorder. This would be too broad for our search since it would bring in other behavior disorders. The term attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is appropriate for our search. The subject term attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is already selected and we don't need to explode it to include narrow terms. In this case, we can simply select continue. We now have the option of combining the term with additional subheadings. This is beyond the scope of the video, so we will select continue. Attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder as an Emcare subject term has now been added to our search. The next line in our search is a keyword search. The attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder subject term covers ADHD and ADDH and attention deficit, but what about HKD? HKD is kinesthetic hyperactivity disorder. That wasn't covered by the subject term attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. We're going to check if there is a subject term in Embase for kinesthetic hyperactivity disorder. Enter it in the search bar and ensure that the map to subject heading is selected. In this case, there wasn't a relevant subject heading for the keyword term, so we don't need to add one. Continue to find subject headings in Embase until you have completed all the lines from your Medline search. Translating between Embase and Emcare is easy since they use the same subject headings. In your Embase search, select Change next to the Resource Selection option to change the database. Select Ovid Emcare, then click on Run Search. Ovid will automatically run your Embase search in Emcare. Now you know how to translate a Medline search to Embase or Emcare. If you have further questions about using Ovid databases or any other library resources and services, please visit our website at monashhealth.org/library or email library@monashhealth.org. Thank you for watching.